Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today is a gloomy Monday, January 13th, 2014, and the NFL playoffs happened this weekend, and my San Diego Chargers. We lost to the Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about that more, and also the entire NFL playoffs we'll talk about. Also, some college football news going around with coaches and people entering the NFL draft. All of this on the episode today. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter at @short_sports247 and on Facebook, The Short Sports Show. Thank you guys for the support. The page has grown. I think it got 15 likes in less than a day. It grew like that, and Twitter's been awesome as well. So thank you guys for that. And so with that, we will start talking about the NFL draft. Some players exiting college football before their senior season, including Alabama safety Vinny Sunseri will enter the NFL draft, and I have a little bit of problem with this. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going on with his life and other things like that, but football-wise, stat-wise, and just, to me, common sense of footballness, he had 20 tackles and 2 interceptions in 7 games this year at Alabama. Then he tore his ACL, out for the year, the remainder of the year, and that's it. Those 2 interceptions were pick 6, which is awesome. You know, that's awesome. You got your 2 interceptions were, pick 6, and that's amazing. But only 20 tackles as a safety, and you decided to skip your senior season. Now, I understand maybe injury-wise, you're a little bit afraid of getting hurt again and that completely knocking you out. But if I'm looking at it, and he had 54 tackles as a sophomore, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to get drafted in the top 6 rounds, and that's pretty bad. I mean, just 20 tackles. Yeah, you had your 2 interceptions, pick 6. That's great, awesome. Then you had a torn ACL, which doesn't help any. It doesn't help at all. And stat-wise, that shows nothing to me. And I if I was him, especially with who Alabama's already losing, I would come back another year and show what you can prove. But again, that obviously his decision. Florida State running back Devontae Freeman and Florida State wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin have also decided to enter the NFL drafts, skipping their senior season. Devontae Freeman had 1,000 yards rushing with 15 touchdowns, and Kelvin Benjamin also had 1,000 yards receiving with 15 touchdowns as well, including the game winner against Auburn in the national championship game. And then LSU running back Jeremy Hill, after saying he would stay, has decided he's going to go ahead and enter the NFL draft. He had 1,400 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, and this guy is an absolute beast. Now, he does have some off the field problems. Hello. But this guy is an absolute beast on the field. If he can clear up all his stuff outside the field and just focus on football. This guy's 6'2", 236 pounds, and this guy is just a monster. Imagine, and I'm not saying where he's projected to go in or what team, but imagine if the Seattle Seahawks drafted Jeremy Hill. They've already drafted one LSU running back in Spencer Ware, who made news today by being arrested for DUI. Not the good type of news, but if they can forget about that LSU player and just say, hey, what if we picked up Jeremy Hill and have this guy go, be the 1-2 punch with Marshawn Lynch. Both of these guys being big, powerful running backs, and obviously Hill's got enough speed to get up to 1,400 yards rushing. Imagine that. That would be pretty sick, because to me, the Seattle Seahawks offense, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but, Robert Turbin doesn't do it for me. I just don't see him as a good, legit running back in the NFL. But having Jeremy Hill and Marshawn Lynch next to each other, back-to-back beast modes, that'd be pretty awesome. But just saying. Also, Louisville hires Georgia's defensive coordinator Todd Graham to a 5-year, $1 million per year deal. So 5-year, $5 million. He coached at Michigan State and at Virginia Tech. So obviously this guy knows about defense, because during the time he was there, they were in top defensive categories each year he was there, and obviously helped Michigan State to be where they're at now. Also coached in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Browns, Indianapolis Colts, and the Houston Texans. And this year, Georgia had the number 5 total defense. So Louisville is hiring some good coaches. They're getting some really good guys going to Louisville. And also, apparently, I talked about it last time, Louisville said they were going to hire Kevin Steele, the Alabama director of player personnel. Apparently, he has backed off and said no, he is not leaving Alabama and is not going to Louisville, so that is no longer happening. As well as Missouri wide receiver Dorial Green Beckham, 6'6" guy. That guy is a huge, tall wide receiver, sophomore, and has been arrested. Actually now has been released from jail after his second drug-related arrest. He was charged on October 2012 with marijuana possession, and now this, and it's just, dude, lay off, relax. He was rated, I believe the number 1 wide receiver when he signed with Missouri 2 years ago, and he's obviously got a bright future ahead of him football wise, but that easily can change if marijuana just keeps happening with him. It's just lay off, dude, and just focus on football, because he led Missouri in receiving yards, and I think as well as catches this year. So he's a good standout wide receiver and has a promising future. Maybe even coming out going to the NFL after his junior season this upcoming season. But obviously that could be impacted with his off the field issues as well. And then former Penn State quarterback Tyler Ferguson is heading to Louisville. He was originally committed to transfer to Western Kentucky to be part of Bobby Petrino's team, but obviously, as we all know now, Bobby Petrino is now with Louisville, and apparently that was the first person they both called each other and said, "What's going on?" They still wanted to be together, I guess, and so he will now be going to Louisville. But one thing I was looking at, I don't know if he's going to be able to be eligible to play this upcoming season. That's what they're making it sound like, but if it's the same transfer rules, then he would not be able to. But I believe he's still eligible for a red shirt, so I guess he wouldn't really lose a year of eligibility because he could just redshirt this upcoming season for Louisville. And that's it for college football. That is it. And now we got to talk about the NFL. Now the NFL is going to be hard. I'm going to try to maintain my composure for this because it was just a sad day Sunday, a very sad day. And that's why we're going to talk about the NFC side first. The Seattle Seahawks fans generated an earthquake in the win against the New Orleans Saints. It wasn't that big, but if they did that against the Saints, and now with the 49ers winning, and 49ers will be playing in Seattle next Sunday, imagine what those fans are going to do next week. It is going to be absolutely crazy. Crazy. Also, the NFL is to sell their Thursday night football to other cable providers. NFL Network has had it over the past however long they've had it, I believe 6 years or so, and are ready to try to make a sale to other providers. Who knows? They haven't said really who's out there, the leading people, but they are going to try to sell it, which is kind of weird. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to have their own, NFL Network not own Thursday night football. I don't know. It's very weird. Also, former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Josh Brent will be in court today for the trial when he was drunk and crashed his car and killed his teammate Jerry Brown. And that's about it. I didn't really read the rest, but that guy, most likely going to jail. Also, Browns to interview former Titans head coach Mike Munchak to possibly be their next head coach. But I don't know. Mike Munchak, I feel like he kind of got screwed because I feel like when he left Tennessee, he didn't want to make any changes because he didn't care. Because I'm pretty sure he was confident he was getting that Penn State job, which now looking back with the James Franklin deal and the Vanderbilt situation, he probably should have got that job. And also, he was a former player at Penn State, so, hello. But Browns, if Browns go after Mike Munchak, I can't see the Browns being good again, no matter who they get, even if it's Johnny Manziel. Just Mike Munchak is not that good of a head coach. Why interview him? And speaking of head coaches, Chargers offensive coordinator Ken Whisenhunt looks like he's going to be going. Oh, which sucks because he obviously improved our offense, which we didn't see yesterday. So maybe not. Maybe he already gave up on us. That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. But hopefully he'll be able to stay. But I highly doubt it. It looks like he'll be either going to Detroit Lions or somewhere else. But that is that's what it's looking like. So now the NFL playoffs. Here we go. First game was, or actually, we're just gonna talk about it was the first game, so it doesn't matter. New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Wow, this was a crazy game. Final score was Seahawks 23, Saints 15. But like I said, the Seattle Seahawks offense, no faith in that thing. Now, Marshawn Lynch did have a really good game, 103 yards on the ground, 140 yards, including 2 touchdowns. But and that's great. Offensively, they can run the ball against the Saints defense, which was number 4 in the total defense this year. That's awesome. That's really good. Russell Wilson only 103 yards passing on 18 attempts. You know, and I'm not gonna say you have to throw the ball to win the games because obviously they didn't, and they did a good job. But they only had 277 total yards of offense. Now, and that was against the Saints defense, which is a pretty good defense. Next week, they're going to be playing the 49ers defense. 49ers have already played the Seattle Seahawks, and both teams have played each other twice now. Both times the home team won, and now, now you're going to be playing the third time. So now you have more film. You know what it's like. This Seahawks offense has to improve. If not, I don't know. I mean, their defense, thankfully, their defense is top notch. But this offense, I have no trust and I have no faith in this offense to go down and score points and extend long drives down the field. Saints, and this is what worries me now with the 49ers coming in to play the Seattle Seahawks. Saints had 409 yards of total offense. Now, obviously, the Saints offense is pretty good, so, that's understandable. Drew Brees, 309 yards, 1 touchdown. Granted, most of these yards were in the second half of the game. And obviously Colin Kaepernick is not the passer of Drew Brees, but he can also extend plays by, using his feet, which now, the Seahawks defense has to make more arrangements, things like that. And Saints only have 57 yards rushing, which wasn't that good. But that running back for them, I can't think of his first name. I know his last name was Robinson. They were talking about him all throughout the game, and this guy is really good. Now, he only had 57 yards rushing and a touchdown, but he has got a promising future for the Saints. Now, Mark Ingram had the fumble, and that gave even more playing time to Robinson, but that guy is pretty good. I believe he was even undrafted as well, so that's, incredible where he's, how he's come up. But anyways, the point is, Saints had a pretty good, not looking at the scoreboard, did pretty good against the Seahawks defense. Now, again, most of it was again in the second half, but the Seattle Seahawks offense needs to score points, and that's what worries me. The defense being out there longer, they've been out there majority of the time this entire year, and going against the 49ers where it's going to be real crazy on the field there. I don't know if I can trust the Seahawks offense against the 49ers defense, which may not be better stat-wise versus the Saints, but the Seahawks offense is what worries me, and I feel like it's going to be the letdown if they lose against the 49ers, which we'll talk about more about the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship on Friday, but the offense is what worries me. This is the main point. I've repeated it multiple times, but I'm just trying to say I don't know how effective they're going to be against the 49ers defense next Sunday. Speaking of the 49ers, they went on the road to play the Carolina Panthers, and the first half was awesome. That game was awesome, and then the second half just kind of went. So 49ers get the victory 23-10. It seems like everybody just wanted to stay in the 20-point range, apparently. But stat-wise, it was very close to the same. 49ers had 315 yards of total offense, while the Panthers had 325. And Colin Kaepernick, 196 yards passing, 1 touchdown. didn't really need to, I don't know. Looking at the stats, obviously it's different than watching the game. It's completely different. When you're watching, it seemed like they were able, in the second half to just take more control and move the ball down the field any way they needed to. They only had 84 yards total rushing, and I believe that was also Colin Kaepernick had that stat as well. So really just offensively, just not all there. And then Panthers, 267 yards by Cam Newton, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and those 2 interceptions really showed his inexperience in the playoffs. Now, this was his first game, but, it shows that, he's got potential to be, now a really good quarterback. I'm giving more credit to Cam Newton. I really didn't believe in him, that he was that good, especially after his first 2 years. He couldn't, handle losing. But, 267 passing yards, and he had that beautiful touchdown pass to Steve Smith. His only touchdown pass, but that was amazing throw, perfect spot, and couldn't do it any better. And, with 267 yards against 49ers defense, really did a good job. And, those 2 interceptions, yeah, they were bad interceptions as well, but he did a good job for his first time being in the playoffs. It was a really good game. And then 54 yards total rushing, which wasn't that good as well. But, there's a lot of positives for the Panthers to take the next step next year. But 49ers, really held their own as well, but, made some mistakes and got away with some penalties that should have been called, and got some things that went their way a little bit more than we should have. I was rooting for the Panthers the entire time. I really, even though that 49ers Seahawks game, sounds more interesting, third time, NFC West, that's awesome. But the Panthers Seahawks, I don't know. To me, that just, it would have been a lot. It would have, I don't know how to put this. I just find it, a better game. Not really. 49ers Seahawks is actually a better game. But I would just like to see the Panthers make that next step. That's what I'm trying to say. So NFC Championship will be the San Francisco 49ers on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. They played each other twice this year. Both times the home team won. And we will see. The game when it was at San Fran, that was actually a close game. When it was in Seattle, it was a blowout. But I don't see a blowout happening against for the NFC Championship. There's no way 49ers are going to go into Seattle and get blown out again, especially with a lot more on the line this time. Now to the AFC side. Now this is where it might get a little bit crazy. First, we'll talk about the Colts and the Patriots. Indianapolis Colts lost to the Patriots 43-22, and their defense is obviously what's going to be addressed in the NFL draft and free agency heavily, and maybe some wide receivers. Total offensive yards for Indianapolis Colts was 386. Pretty good because, obviously the Patriots defense isn't that good as well. Andrew Luck, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the big stinger was the 4 interceptions that he threw. And 63 total yards on the ground for the Indianapolis Colts. 4 interceptions for Andrew Luck. He had 3 interceptions against the Kansas City Chiefs. We all say Andrew Luck is a great quarterback, and he is. To be down 28 points at home and in the playoffs and be able to bring your team back and win, that's huge. And to play the Patriots on the road, that's a tough game. But 4 interceptions, 7 interceptions in 2 games is not the Andrew Luck that we know. And, the last time the Colts played the Patriots before that, it was a huge blowout. He threw some pick six, and it just seems like it was a repeat of that game. Patriots offense, 419 total yards. Tom Brady, only 198 yards. No touchdowns for Tom Brady. Still were able to put up 43 points. That's when you know this Patriots team, offensively, even though they don't have the stars of Gronkowski, even Hernandez, and some wide receivers that we have no idea who they are, no Welker, to put up 43 points. Granted, it was the Colts defense, I know, but I'm just saying. This offense is a no-name offense other than Brady, and yet can still put up points like crazy. And Brady doesn't even have to throw the ball that much because he's able to just, win. And their defense, it takes most of the credit because, those 4 interceptions, things like that. LeGarrette Blount, former running back at Oregon, is a power back, not the speed back that we know that Oregon has nowadays where they're running 4.1s and 4.2s in the 40-yard dash. LeGarrette Blount probably ran a 4.7, maybe a 4.6 on a good day. Rushed for 166 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Wow. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season, if you would have told me that LeGarrette Blount would be your main running back for the Patriots and not Stephen Ridley, I'd say you're crazy. There's no way I would have thought LeGarrette Blount would be this good. So, granted, most of his touchdowns were, those 1-2 yards, but still, he scored touchdowns, and that's all that matters. Whether they're 1 yards or they're 100 yards, 4 touchdowns. So this Patriots offense is scary. It's scary, and you just think the job that Bill Belichick has done. I've been watching First Take a lot this past week, and I love watching that show. I just hadn't really watched it that much, especially on being on the West Coast. It is 7 o'clock in the morning when they show it. I'm not about to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning just to watch First Take. I could watch it later or listen to the podcast later. But when I have a chance to watch it, they talk about the Patriots. Skip Bayless always talks about the Patriots. This team, Bill Belichick really should be Coach of the Year. The way he's, been able to deal with the losses that he's had, both offensively and defensively, and still be able to be one of the top teams in the NFL. Yes, he has Tom Brady. Yes, it's Tom Brady. But still, this Patriots team has been the least talked about in this playoffs, and it's probably most deadliest team in the playoffs. So, Patriots, it's going to be a good game. And now we transition to the San Diego Chargers versus the Denver Broncos game. And this game was tough. Chargers, final score was Broncos 24, Chargers 17. All 17 points for the Chargers came in the fourth quarter. We're shut out through three quarters. And it was just, Chargers had 259 yards of total offense. Phillip Rivers, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, 29 yards rushing total. Yeah. Keenan Allen had 142 yards on 6 receptions, 2 touchdowns. This guy is Rookie of the Year. Just saying to put that in there. And the Broncos, 363 yards of total offense. Peyton Manning, 230, 2 touchdowns. And Knowshon Moreno, 82 yards and a touchdown. Now, this game has been unlike most of the games. You could always say when you look at, your team's losses, you could say, well, if they would have just caught this play on 3rd and long or 3rd and short or 4th and 1 or something, if they would have just done this, this game was just a pure loss. It was just Chargers were dominated. The Broncos showed why they were the number 1 seed in the NFL, in the AFC. This wasn't a game where it was like, okay, well, if we had this play or if we would have caught the ball here, or there wasn't a penalty, we could have got that in an extended drive or we made a field goal. It wasn't like that. This game was just pure shutdown, looking like you don't even deserve in the playoffs. When I was watching this game, and especially after the first half, it looked like the team was just dead, and it looked like a team that shouldn't even have been in the playoffs. And yes, we came alive in the fourth quarter and did something. This was an injury game. Chargers lost about 4 or 5 people before they even entered they had like 2 losses before they entered the game, and now 4 or 5 during the game. Broncos also lost some players throughout the game as well. And the biggest loss was Broncos cornerback Chris Harris. And I was looking at a stat on Twitter, and it said that Chris Harris, when he's on the field, the quarterback rating for the opposing team is 43.0. When he's off the field, it's 93.0. They have now lost him because he tore his ACL against the Chargers, and he's out for the rest, obviously, for the remainder of postseason. That's going to hurt their defense because as soon as he was out, I'm not ignoring the fact, that's when Keenan Allen came in and made the plays. Started making those catches, made both of those touchdowns, the only touchdowns for the Chargers. That's when we started coming alive. Our offense looked like what it should have been doing throughout the entire game and what it had done against the Broncos the first 2 times they played the game. Now, I don't want this to be an entire Chargers rant. The Broncos, obviously, Peyton Manning just I don't know. That was a different Peyton Manning than we seen the first 2 times when he played the Chargers. But one thing is, for people that don't give credit to the Chargers, the Chargers have held the Broncos all 3 times that they played to the lowest amount of yardages for Peyton Manning and total offense for the Broncos all year. All year. No other team held them to as low of yardage than the Chargers did. Even with the weak secondary that the Chargers have, because that defense is terrible. It is terrible. Now, I'm not saying, if we had better players, or if we did have better players, this would have probably been a different game. But I'm just saying, with the team that they have, to do that, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It shows that Coach Pagano, our defensive coordinator, is a smart guy. He deals probably with so much stress because of how bad our players are defensively with missed tackles. That was one huge thing throughout the entire game, how they could not stop. Even Monty Ball, who's like 5'10", 190-something, 80 pounds, no one could tackle him without having 2 or 3 people tackle him. No Sean Moreno, that's a little bit better of excuse because, he's a probably 200-plus pounder and 6'1" or something. That makes a little bit more sense. But the missed tackling on this game, it was just incredibly bad. The mixed up coverages, the 3rd and 17, and no one decided to cover Julian Thomas, one of the best playmakers out there. I'm not saying, I think if we would have stopped him there, then we might have, I think for sure Chargers would have gone overtime. Not saying they would have won. I'm just saying it might have been overtime. Because the way they started to move down the field and that Broncos defense missing Chris Harris and a few other players, they were getting a little exposed right there. But the offensive line for the Chargers were terrible. I mean, a 3-man rush, 4-man rush, it didn't matter how much you brought or what you did. Phillip Rivers was uncomfortable the entire night and, couldn't do anything. But and that's all that's all praise to the Broncos defense, how they were, told the entire time they're the weakest link. They're terrible defense or average defense. That's what's going to make them lose in the playoffs if they do. And it wasn't going to be offense. They came out and played and did a great job. And, it sucks to lose in the playoffs, but Broncos, they showed why they're the number 1 seed, and to lose Peyton Manning, it was Peyton Manning. It's not like we lost to, freaking Alex Smith or something. You know what I mean? So it sucks, but there's a lot more I can see for the Chargers in the future. How much are they going to get better? And I'm not breaking up. It's my voice. I'm losing my voice again. It sounds so bad now. Anyways, point is, Broncos move on, play the Patriots, and that's what the networks wanted. We wanted to see Brady versus Manning. Seahawks versus 49ers, or 49ers versus Seahawks. And it's going to be great. Both of those, Championship Sunday is going to be a great Sunday with both of these games. And I think that was it for the Chargers and the Broncos game that I was making my point. I feel like I'm missing something. I probably will. I'll just tweet it out later in case I miss something. But the Patriots, Broncos, they go at it next Sunday. I don't know how, even though I know, CBS doesn't own the night shift area, but that game should be Sunday Night Football on CBS, not NBC, but CBS. That should be Sunday Night Football because that is going to be the best game. Somehow they're the early game, and then the 49ers and Seahawks are the second game. Doesn't make sense to me. But it's going to be interesting how this goes out. I will talk more about those games on Friday. On Friday's episode, we'll discuss it. We'll go through, analyze both teams, or all 4 teams, both games, and how that will play out next Friday on Spreaker.com. Make sure you follow on Spreaker.com to get up to date with other stuff. Also follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7. And also, in case you missed this episode or want to re-listen to any other episodes, go on YouTube, type in The Short Sports Show, and follow me or like me on Facebook, The Short Sports Show on there. And my Chargers lost. It's so sad. No, but it's going to be a great football. This season has been amazing. What the Chargers have done, 5-7, win 5 straight games, and make the play in the playoffs and all the other good stuff. I'm just saying, a lot of positives, even though the game was very negative. One news is Stanford offensive lineman David Yankey to enter NFL draft. He could be the first interior lineman taken. Spurs Danny Green to miss 4 weeks due to non-displaced fracture in left hand. And that's about it. Thank you guys for listening. I will see you guys on Friday. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and all that other good stuff. So, my Chargers, though. My Chargers. Sad.